What if you didn't have to be perfect, ready, or even logical to start receiving everything you've ever dreamed of? Today's guest, Edith B. Kiss, is living proof that the universe rewards bold moves and intuitive action. Edith has created a life of alignment and success, and she's here to show you how you can too. Get ready for an episode full of soul, strategy, and serious shifts. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money Podcast, the show where we tackle the taboo topics of money and manifestation. I'm your host, Jenny Schultz, former 9-to-5 grinder who ditched the status quo and went all in on creating a life I love. Yes, I use manifestation. Yes, I took action. And yes, I created a 7-figure net worth before turning 40. Every week, I'll bring you inspiring stories with money mavens and manifestation masters. From learning how to make more, save more, and grow your wealth to unlocking the power of manifesting your dream life. I am so excited to play in this space with you. Let's jump into creating a life you love. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money Podcast, Edith B. Kiss.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you on here today and share your story. I've been reading through your book, and I would love for you to share with the listeners just who you are and pieces of what your story is.
Yeah, so originally I'm from Hungary, which used to be a social or communist country. And starting my life from there, it taught me that it's so amazing to learn about new countries, new things. I was always ready for an adventure because we were like in a box. And when I finally had the chance as a child to go out to other countries, I realized how much better life could be outside of our country. So I was always aiming to travel. I was always aiming to get more money and then go outside and see the world. I loved history. I loved geography. I actually hated school, although I was a very good student because I was an introvert. I didn't like socializing much and the bullying and stuff. So basically, I didn't like also that we were in a structure. We had to do homeworks. I didn't like that part, but I enjoyed history and geography, most of them. What happened is that I set my goals all the time. I was influenced by people around me. So I was lucky to have my mom as an influential person who went through several diplomas, and then my brother who also learned abroad. So they were my influence, and that's why I started to learn certain languages. That's why I wanted to achieve more, basically, and just following their paths. So that was already the first steps. But when I was in my high school, I already realized that I can actually choose what I want to do, and I don't need to learn all the subjects I supposed to. And then I started to be selective, prioritizing things like, okay, I need this subject for my exams or my university. I don't need this one. So I started to prioritize, and of course, my average grades went down because I didn't study everything, but I started to enjoy life more. I went out more with friends and clubbing and all of those things. So I realized that I need a balance to also enjoy life, having fun while we also working towards our big goals. And then I don't mind if my literature is just passing and my math is the top number because I need to get into an engineering school. So that's what happened. Eventually, I became a petroleum engineer. And why I became a petroleum engineer is because of the travel, because of the adventure, because of also I knew that petroleum engineers making a lot of money. And so that's what was calling me, that lifestyle. But I haven't finished the school like in 5 years as it's supposed to be. It was a master's degree for 5 years. Actually, it took me 8 years, but not because I was a bad student and I had to repeat things. It was because I took breaks to travel. I took breaks to take a job outside of my country where I could make much more money and then support my studies or support my parents even. So that's what I did. I went to be a waitress in the Caribbean on a cruise. It was amazing traveling around the Caribbean islands and in the Latin American countries, Colombia, Venezuela. And also that was the first time when I went to Miami or Costa Rica, and I was only 21, and be able to do that, it was like magical. And then later I took on jobs like a babysitter or nanny jobs in different countries. I went to the Netherlands or the UK to do that. And again, I learned about new cultures. It became clear to me that I enjoy spend a longer period of times in cultures to really get to know them, to even learn the part of the language and be living with those families. It was an amazing opportunity to do. When I finally finished my university, I also had the chance actually to go to internships to different countries. I went to internship to Ukraine and then also to Mexico. Again, it was a great opportunity. And when I had my diploma and then I was looking for a job, I was first worried, like, oh, how I'm gonna find a job. And when they hired me, they were not looking at what I studied or what was my grades. They actually hired me because of my experiences. And it doesn't matter what I was doing. It was like, wow, she can really live on we used to say it in Hungary. There's a saying that on the top of the ice. She can live on the top of the ice. It means it's okay for her if we put her somewhere out there in a country and then she can survive, because that's what that company was doing in the oil industry. We had jobs in 2 weeks in this country, 2 weeks in that country. We were following the schedule of the oil rigs or whatever. They needed someone who they can think, okay, she could actually do that. And because she's done it before. So that's when you looking for a job or when you're looking for to reach a goal, it's sometimes not what you're supposed to have, what you think. Like people think that we need to meet certain conditions to get what we want, but sometimes it's not what we actually expect. It's something different, what is more attractive to people or more aligned with that goal than what we expect or what we heard or learned about before. So we need to think really outside of the box and feel free to just follow our dreams and goals and just go for it. And then, of course, sometimes it takes time, it's not like when it's people saying that they have actually instant manifestation, it's not really instant. They work for it for years. It just seems instant because as soon as they got into that circle and they got that opportunity, it feels instant. But they were not at the right position before. That's why they didn't get the opportunity, but they took a lot of time for them to actually prepare.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And that is one of the pieces that I resonated so much with you listening to your story is that you have been able to curate this life that is this work and play mix. Yes, you could have gone to school and checked off all the boxes, but you decided, no, I'll focus on the pieces that I know I need to get me to the next step. And I will allow the space for myself to enjoy life at the same time. And I just have to ask you, where did you find, I want to use the word courage, at such a young age to just keep tuning into that internal compass of yours and decide to travel the world or have experiences that would take you out to different countries and learning different cultures at such a young age?
Didn't really could explain it for a while. So what happened is, for example, when I went to first time alone abroad, it was when I was 19, and then I went to UK to be an au pair because I decided I need to learn English. Without English, I cannot survive in this new era with the internet and everything. I was like, I need to learn. I was fluent in German and I had some Russian background, but I was like, I need to learn English. It was really obvious. And so I was like, okay, I need to go to UK. That's the fastest way to study the language, not sitting in the bench at home or with classes. So I just booked myself in. I sold my piano, I sold my violin because we haven't had enough money. So I'm really laser focused when I want something. It's just like I just go through. And then I was already sitting on the couch, like traveling across Europe from Hungary to the UK when in like middle of the night, I just came into my mind, like, where the heck I'm going? I don't know nobody there. I hardly speak the language. Where am I going? What am I doing? It felt like my ego is lacking from my soul. It's like my soul is connected to my higher self, which is like guiding me like crazy, moving towards for my path. And my ego is just maybe woke up from I don't know, a nap and trying to stop me, but then I'm in the middle already, so I can't stop, And then I realized that it was always like that I already put in all the effort. I already went with the role. And when I eventually had the time to freak out, it was already too late. I was already in it. So then it's just how my brain works somehow. I got so fired up and so excited about the opportunity or that experience that it was just like no-brainer for me to follow through. And then when I was there in the middle, I was like, wow, okay, no, I just have to survive. I think it's the adrenaline. I have maybe this fire in me, like I am also Cancer and Leo in Zodiac. And then maybe there is this fire which is always guiding me to achieve something more. And then feeling the gap, as my book is called, The Gap Filler Success. Basically, I see my goal and then okay, how to fill that gap. And then I'm just go for it and filling the gaps.
Yeah. And I think you bring in a very valid point there. You are somehow, I don't know how you do it, putting ego in the back seat. You are letting that internal way of being guide you, whereas so many people get hung up in the ego and what are other people going to think? I have to check all those success boxes. There's a specific way that I'm supposed to be living my life, therefore I should, because this is what society is expecting of me. So we're just kind of almost, I don't know, ego makes me think of like robotic. We are living life like we're expected to live because that is the way the world's been presented to us. And somehow you have been able to just calm that ego and listen to your internal compass. Do you have like certain spiritual practices that you tap into to connect with your higher self more?
Yes, absolutely. So at the very beginning, when I was in my early 20s, I haven't had any spiritual practice. I didn't know that I am spiritually connected. That's why I'm acting this way. But then later, when I started my spiritual practices, I realized that, oh, I'm living through my higher self. That's why I'm acting how I'm acting. Now I'm doing it consciously. And then if I'm consciously tapping in, that I use a samadhi meditation. And in the samadhi meditation, basically, I activate my pineal gland. And what happened when I did it for the first time, it was in 2018, the breadcrumbs from the universe, the synchronicities and the intuition is became much stronger. It was like this compass or this path was like even more stronger. The callings were more stronger. I didn't need to come up always like mindfully thinking of what should be my next goal. It was like more like calling. It's become like a more a pull. And when I was acting on it or taking the inspired actions, somehow all the solution or all the challenges was like dissolving because I was following that calling.
Yeah, so you were being pulled along a path, it felt like, instead of forcing yourself to go down a path.
Yeah, because in the past, when I wasn't spiritually connected with this tool, I was sometimes coming up with ideas from because I had information outside of me or I was speaking with people. So I was coming up with like, okay, that's a great idea. So I started to work towards it. But those things actually resulted with not, I can't say success in that direction. It could look from outside that that was a failure. Although I never think I ever had a failure because I always feel like it's the next stepping stone or it was something which helped me to think differently or shift me or whatever. But there was, for example, the situation when we went to New Zealand. It was a conscious decision to leave Europe and go to New Zealand, and we went through like a whole year immigration process. But when we got there, I would say the universe did not support us to stay because it wasn't an intuitive calling path. It was more like me taking conscious, mindful thinking process. And eventually we returned. And then when we returned, it was lots of things, manifestations, which I was thinking to wanted to have before I left came through. So it was more like just a vacation or like a sabbatical from life, from our whole existence. It felt like a break, out of break from life. And then it felt, and my husband suffered from it more. He kind of got into a depression when we got home because he wanted to stay there so much. And then we didn't achieve. And then we lost all our money, what we invested in this whole trip. He felt it more like a big failure. But for me, it was like, wow, being there for 7 months and coming back and achieving everything I wanted before. It was like, for me, it was a huge achievement.
Yeah. That's a fascinating lens to look at it. And for everybody listening, the Gap Filler Success book is fascinating. You get to hear so much of her story. And when I say story, there are so many stories like she just shared that you're like, holy smokes, if I could have the balls to go out and do that in my lifetime just once, it's just story after story in there. Let's talk about your book a bit here, because I know you really have a process that makes crystal clear sense to me.
Yeah, in the gap filler success, there is two parts of the book. The first part is which is for people who's not that spiritual, and then they actually believe in their own power in the physical reality. So in that part, I also placed some strategic steps, basically, which I realized that I use that all the time when I reach my goals. And that one of them is the 3P method. And in this 3P method, the first P is actually positioning. So when you know what do you want to reach, what goal you want to reach, that is belongs to certain people or it belongs to a certain place. So you basically position yourself close to the fire. If you want to move to a certain location, or if you want to be in a certain circle, or whatever it is, like basically you need to position yourself close to the fire when you want to achieve something in that area. And the second P is preparation. You need to prepare yourself. It can take 1 year, couple of months, it depends. Maybe you need to learn a new skill, new languages, whatever it takes to fill that gap, basically to get from A to B. So you're doing the preparation, that's the second P. And the third P is push yourself to jump. Because if you done well the positioning and the preparation, you're gonna receive opportunities, you're gonna receive offers. And then people tend to start to doubt themselves when already the opportunity is there, and then already they are like, okay, here it is, do it. And you are just like, oh, holy shit, this is it. Maybe I can't do this. And then they start doubting themselves, and then they actually ruin the whole process, and then they don't do it eventually. So why you need to push yourself? That's why, because the doubts, and then just you need to clear the doubts, and then say, okay, if I get this opportunity, it means it's meant for me. That's the most important thing. For example, when I got my position with Shell, I used to work for a Hungarian oil company for many years, and in Hungary, basically. And then that's why when I got pregnant and I had children, I was working in Hungary, but I was on maternity leave. And then the oil price went up, and then Shell just gave me a call through a headhunter that they actually want to hire me as a contractor. And then they offered me the salary 8 times my old salary. And I was like, wow. I really felt like, okay, I am on maternity leave. I wanted to stay longer with my baby, but this offer is like so huge and I just can't say no. And then, of course, I knew probably they're going to have different levels of expectations than I have in my company. And then they asked me certain questions. The interview was maybe like 10 minutes. They asked me like a couple of questions. Have you done this? Yes. Have you done this? Yes. Have you done this? Yes. Okay. So something like that. I said yes. I also asked my mom to come to look after, help with the kids. So we moved, and then I even discussed with my husband that, okay, he didn't even believe that I'm gonna stay there. He didn't trust it that I can actually live through like a month or two there. And then I was like, you know what, even if we just got 1 month salary, we are already fine. So I actually got there, and then I started to work. And then I was very lucky because the manager was very patient, and all the co-workers were very nice, so teaching me in the steps. So I learned pretty fast. And then the first month was like, felt like they put me in the deep water, literally. It was so different. It was so intense if I compare it to my old job. But it was a really nice environment with very nice people. Eventually, I learned and I was really successful there with my work. But what I wanted to say is that if I feel like I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing it because I'm scared and then I don't take it, I could lose a huge opportunity. And then the other thing was that after that position, I received an even better position because I was there. Every position or everything what we do is the next level, is always take you to the next level. I call myself a yes man. That is one of my chapters is actually about the yes man. I call myself a yes person who's always saying yes to opportunities, because I believe that is actually taking me to the next level. And sometimes I have no clue how it's going to help me. And then years later, I'm like, oh my God, this is what I had to go there and do that actually, because now I need that kind of paper, or I need that kind of practice, which I've actually done 2 years ago and I had no clue. There are certain things you feel you want to do it, you can't explain it, but then it's going to make sense a couple of years later or months later.
Yeah. And don't you find when you're connecting with your higher self and the path is opening up and you're saying yes to it, that it almost feels as if you can't say no? For somebody to offer you an 8 times salary increase, that makes you stop in your tracks. And I know I would have a hard time saying no to that. You have to pack up your family and you're literally taking your mom along with you to have that built-in childcare, which I think is fascinating. It's hard to say no to a number of that big of a jump.
We were living in Hungary for 7 years at that time. And actually, I didn't like being so long in that country because I always like to travel. So that 7 years was, and then since my son was born, he was actually 6 years old then. And since he was born, I taught him for English since birth because I knew one day we're going to leave, one day we're going to leave. It was just like, I know one day we're gonna leave. And then I taught him English. When we left, he started English school in the Netherlands. And before that, he was in a Hungarian kindergarten. It was a big shift for him, but he was actually able to handle it well because of how I prepared him for it. That's the preparation. Sometimes you don't just prepare yourself, you prepare your whole freaking family.
Right.
If you know in the bottom of your heart that it's gonna happen one day, then you prepare the whole family for this miracle.
It makes so much sense. If you can just intuitive lean into the things that feel right for you to say yes to and keep holding the big picture of what you want or saying yes to those things that you feel aligned to. And then, like you said, you look back later and see, oh, I said yes to that in the moment because now that piece of the puzzle fits into the life that I'm creating.
Yeah, so the second
Yeah.
half of the book is more for people who believes in spiritual help, law of attraction, manifestation practices. And because that's what happened to me, like when I started to do more spiritual practices, that I realized that the manifestation get amplified or it got like faster or just different, the whole process. And it was making less sense, but became more powerful. And with the 5-step method, I also realized that maybe for other people could be more difficult to manifest or what could hold them back. Because since 2018, I also started to work with clients about their traumatic experiences, their PTSD, depression, panic attacks, their mental health, and then how it's actually related with manifestation and how can it hold them back or keep them stuck, and also with subconscious reprogramming. In the 5-step method, if you want to reach your goal, the first step is to have the clarity, consciously make the decision that you want that thing. So, for example, losing weight, let's say just losing weight. Okay, I actually managed to lose 20 kilos, which is like 40 pounds when I was 42 years old, but that was more through the Reiki energy healing thing. But let's say now that, okay, the goal is to lose weight. And then you make that conscious decision. And then the second point is basically, is this aligned with your beliefs, like your subconscious belief? Because your conscious belief is less, yes, I can do that. I want to do this to lose that weight. But the subconscious belief may be telling you that you are too weak to be disciplined, or you can't lose weight because you are already over 40, or you can't lose weight because of your genes or whatever it is in your beliefs. Maybe you grew up with a belief and you carry that with yourself. You need to understand that you have some subconscious beliefs you need to reprogram, you need to rewrite if you are aware of them. I have some drawing exercise I do with my clients to actually dive more deeper into their subconscious, and then we can see that how is it differentiated from their conscious. In the subconscious, you have these beliefs, and the habits are also in the subconscious. So you need to reprogram the habits as well. For example, you want to lose weight, so you need more movements. You need a daily routine for exercise, and also your diet is 80% of the success of your losing weight is the diet, and 20 is the exercise. If you just start going to the gym, but you keep eating what you were eating, nothing gonna happen. You need to change your diet. And so that's the habits. And then the third point is the trauma, releasing traumas from the core, from the unconscious mind. Why is that? Because you are triggered on a daily basis and you're feeling all kinds of negative emotions because of that. And when you are feeling those ways, you are riding an emotional roller coaster. And when you're riding an emotional roller coaster, you can't keep your vibration high and feel joyous and happy and manifest. Because when you want to manifest happy things, what makes you happy, right? You want to be happy when you are 20 kilos less. So you want to manifest into that lifestyle. Yeah, I'm so light, I am happy, I'm joyous. But you can't if you are sad or you feel betrayed or angry because someone just triggered you. And why you're feeling that way is because you have a core trauma from the childhood or young adulthood or whenever it happened. When you release that, heal that, the trigger is going to stop and not going to keep you on that emotional roller coaster. You're going to be more in peace. You are able to keep in gratitude and bliss and happiness, so you can attract more what you manifest. And then the fourth point is to connect with the superconscious mind. And how to connect and why is because when you connect with the superconscious, you realize that it's the hustle culture is actually not the right thing for manifestation. The hustle culture wants you to always striving, but sometimes you need to be in a growth mode. And the growth mode is actually when you rest and recalibrate and adjust. And that mode is when many people feel guilty and ashamed that, oh my God, I got sick, I can't work now, or I'm on a vacation, I'm not working now. And they feel guilt and shame about any time they rest. And that also creating low vibration, that's also creating resistance in their manifestation. To understand the energies of the universe, flow with it, and understand that, for example, Mercury retrograde, let's a bit keep slower, turn inside, and then do some inner work and analyze the situations and be more calm and peaceful. That requires a bit slowing down without guilt and shame. That's how you can align with the universe, or numerological portals I also explain in the book. And the fifth step is to taking inspired actions. So when you went through the first, second, third, fourth, then eventually you need to take actions after you clear the path, right? And then that has to be an inspired action which you feel like called to take on, not action which other people want you to take, or not actions what other people is expecting you to take, but your inspired action.
That makes sense. And you can see the parallels in your life when you've done the steps like this and you're like, yes, and it worked out and it felt easy and it didn't feel like you were going uphill. Like I said, the inspired action usually comes across when you get to that point as something so obvious that it's a yes for you. There's no reason why you could say no to the opportunity because it's so good. I would love for you to share, because I'm sure there's going to be people who want to continue on this conversation with you, where they can reach out, connect with you.
Yeah, so I have a website with my name, edithbkiss.com, and from there they can find all my social media. I'm posting most often on my Instagram, actually. And I also have a school community. I have live events every week where we do manifestation and healing meditation practices. I also have a meditation library there, a course, the Life Transformation System course, and some other workshops. So I think that's the best if they join my school community, which is called actually Release with Ease, because I felt like that's really important also for manifestation, to really releasing the past, let go of the past, forgive, and then start new freshly with good energies. That's how you can manifest better. So Release with Ease on school, and that's where is my community.
Okay, perfect. I'll be sure to have that all in the show notes. And before we go, I would love for you to share your biggest piece of advice for someone to go out and create a life they love.
Wow. To understand that mindfulness is really important. And mindfulness is when you can control three things in life. You control your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. And when you control those three, then you win. The thoughts, basically not having negative thoughts, not having negative assumptions. Maybe you need information, maybe you need communication, but just make sure you are thinking in a positive way. The second is the emotions, controlling your emotions. That many people think like it's not possible. They feel like, the situation is controlling their emotions, right? But actually, you can control your emotions. You can shift anxiety into excitement. You can actually heal those roots which is causing you the negative emotions. Being in a positive emotion, again, because of the frequency, is so important. And then the third one is the controlling your actions, is because you need to understand the consequences of your actions. You don't want to do things which has like negative consequences, because it's like a ripple effect in both ways. So you want to do and take actions which has positive outcomes. Then just be more mindful about your actions.
Mm-hmm. So good. Thank you. That is the perfect way to end it. Thank you so much for coming on and joining me on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Take care, everyone.
Thank you for hanging out with me on the Manifestation and Money podcast. If you're ready to take your manifesting to the next level, come join me inside the Manifestation Playground. It's an intentional space I've created to explore, experiment, and expand your manifestation potential. It's where the magic happens. So head on over to www.manifestationplayground.ca to find out more. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep taking aligned action. Cheers to creating a life you love.